Welcome to the Optimistic Dater Podcast, a podcast dedicated to all things dating. Today we're going to be going over movie standards in dating. I am Sam, joined by the lovely Julia. And
Hey guys! Ow, ow!
yep, movie standards. Movies setting the standards for dating. What do we think about that?
What do we think about that? Um, I think that it definitely makes dating hard, especially in today's society with social media and all kinds of other factors.
Yeah, I think they set an sometimes unrealistic expectation of like what's expected of both parties.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's like not the worst thing in the world. Like, oh yeah, you could probably pick a thing or two out of certain movies, but I think from the guy's perspective, it's definitely like, holy shit, you got to be either Prince Charming, rich, or the funniest man on the planet. And if you're not one of those, yeah, see you.
Yeah, and then for women, it's like, why the fuck can't I find a guy like this? Where are they? I know they're out there because the movie's telling me they're right here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
They're there. We just don't know where. But yeah, the movie's nowhere, but we don't know where. Maybe that's the
Yep,
thing.
apparently.
What are some kind of like go-to movies that you think, put it this way, that you think are like a good representation and then like a bad representation of like dating?
I don't know. Put me on the spot, why don't you?
Yeah.
Okay, let me think of some of my favorite movies. I mean, there's things like, your classics like Notting Hill and like Sleepless in Seattle and, some of the good like 90s ones. And then, like The Notebook is a big one and where I think that there's like some real aspects to that. I think that also there's a lot of kind of toxic things that come up in a movie like that that make it seem like everything's going to be a fairy tale and everything's always going to work out the way it's supposed to.
Yeah.
So, if you do things like you never move on and you just hold out for that person that you think is the one, then they'll come back to you, but that's not always the case.
Right. Yeah. I was going to say The Notebook for kind of my in between because like they get a lot of that stuff. I feel like realistically, but then other stuff it's kind of like, okay, like why are you holding out that long? But yeah, I get it.
Or
Uh,
like, the part where she goes to she's like a nurse in the military and then the guy like comes back after his whole body's been broken. He's like, "It's me. Remember you said we would go on that date." And she's like, "Oh."
oh,
Oh,
oops.
he's so perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I was thinking of like La La Land. I don't mean to keep it on Ryan Gosling, but apparently I'm going to.
Mm.
Is a good one of like, yeah, uh, is a good one of like maybe the right person, wrong time style of kind of dating, um, as well as I'm thinking of like the comedies too, because I think the comedies do a lot better job than most like drama oriented.
So one that actually I liked and I thought was pretty realistic was the Crazy Stupid Love with Ryan Gosling in it.
I was gonna name that one next. Yeah,
Yeah, so I mean, I think that one's a good one because it does pull a lot of different aspects. I think it's also a little bit wrong in the sense of, like he's this toxic guy and then they like fall in love, but at the same time, like I don't know, I guess some that does represent more of like the right person for you is going to be the right person for you.
yeah, showing you what you're missing out on when you kind of let your guard down. Yeah, I can see it that way.
You can't change the toxic person, but if the right person comes along that's not trying to change you but can love you for who you are, then,
Might steer them
that's
onto a little,
where it's not toxic.
yeah, a little bit better path than being this playboy type character. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good one where it kind of like love always finds a way in some form or fashion. Um, that's a good one. Yeah, I like that one. Damn, now we're all gonna just have like movie nights of like romantic comedies and stuff.
You know what one I really liked was How to Be Single. Have you seen that one?
Mm, maybe I don't know.
So that one focuses more on, so it's like a girl who goes through these periods of like she dates people, but the movie focuses more on like the in-betweens of her dating and why like and how she ends up staying alone for a period of time and then she actually thrives better whenever she loves herself. And then at the very end, there's like, I'm not gonna give it away, but like there's a part that's like really awesome. So if you haven't seen How to Be Single, it's really good and it has a lot of funny parts in it too because it has Rebel Wilson in it and she's fucking funny as fuck. So
That's good. What's the one with Gerard Butler? Um, he's Irish.
Ugly Truth.
No, that one's a good
That
one
one?
too.
Okay.
I think that one's a funny kind of point blank to the face of like, no, making
Yes, but
fun of it.
also that gives you that you, I mean, uh,
I th-
enemies to lovers kind of thing.
yeah, one of those. Also, a bit of like a reality check on people that maybe carry them like our hoity-toity style of dating.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was thinking of the other one where it's shoot. Oh dang it! Should have looked up a bunch of movies after this or before this.
The
Her
P.S.
husband.
I Love
I
You.
think that's what it is. Where
It's the
the
one where her husband dies and
husband
then he like
dies.
leaves the letters.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the P.S. I Love You.
yeah. If you want to ball like
Oh
a
my
child,
God.
yeah,
This is traumatizing.
yeah, yeah. Just gonna bring up all the classics that everyone cries to and eats ice cream to.
I think that like one of the most toxic ones I think is the one where the girls are trying to like where the girls change the guys because I think that so many women and probably men too think that because they see it in movies that they're able to like change people
Yeah,
and that's just not the case and it shouldn't be how it is.
yeah. You're forcing your style of person onto a guy that or girl that isn't what they are. Yeah,
Hmm.
a lot of those I think, at least maybe nowadays, I feel um, oh dang, I mean, I really should just have like a list on the side here. Um, the older ones, like Victorian age, where like the girls usually rebel. I'm trying to think of
Hmm.
the style of that. I feel like those do a very good job of like this lord is trying to court this younger lady, and she's like, nah, fuck that, because she's a
Yeah.
rebel at heart or something. That's always good.
Yeah, that's a good one. Except for back in those days, the reality of the situation is usually if you rebelled, then you would get some consequences that were not great.
That and they were also like wedding girls off at like 13. So yeah, that's it's not accurate.
Yeah. Um, how about like what are some of the specific like standards that movies create?
Uh, your Prince Charmings riding
Oh,
on a
Prince
horse
Charming.
that fixes all the problems
Who
without.
just shows up out of nowhere.
Yeah, yeah, just literally out of nowhere on a horse or in a car or a motorcycle, whatever the case may be, and all of a sudden, all of your problems are fixed because this man just popped into your life.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
Yeah. Um, I think like we kind of talked about the love at first sight is kind of one. I do think that there's an initial attraction that you can feel with somebody that's very instant, but loving somebody, I mean, it is not just I see you and I'm in love with you. That's a very physical thing.
Yeah,
Love is an emotional thing. Lust is a physical thing. And
yeah.
you could definitely lust at first sight, but you could not love at first sight. I
I
don't believe that.
Yeah, I think a lot of movies put lust into the love category and
Hmm.
try to play it off like it's love,
Yeah.
because for this story, they their eyes met across the table and it was over from there. It's like, yeah, okay, like you just think that person's hot.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you can say that.
Yeah,
Or like years down the road when you've been married for a while, you could be, oh, it was love at first sight. Nah,
yeah,
bitch, it was not love at first sight. It was lust at first sight.
yeah,
You just wanted to put your wiener in her. That is all that is.
yeah. That's all that was. It's just a little bit more
And
glamorized.
then you liked it, so then you decided to stay. All right.
Then you kept his ass around. Yeah, that's how that went.
Speaking of sex, sex is a very bad one that movies kind of twist around the whole like you walk into a room and you're like ripping each other's clothes off, and then it's just like this romantic, like wonderful, like not gross thing at all, but like
Your encounter is usually gross.
I mean like sex is just, it's like I think that that's something like when you're younger, you see these movies and you think like, okay, like, it's just this romantic thing
Oh
and
yeah,
it's
yeah,
very just what it is. But then, I mean, sex really is, there's a lot of different things that happen in it that aren't movie related.
yeah, yeah, yeah. They definitely hit the highlight reel of we can show this, we can show this, we can show this, and these are all the glamorized things, the back shot type things, like the low lighting. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Where in actuality, like if you're with somebody, it's like, you know, on the couch or elsewhere, not like let me derobe you and stuff like that.
You know that episode of Friends where Rachel and Ross had accidentally made a sex tape and then they're rewatching it back and they're like, oh, oh. And then they're like, ugh,
Ugh.
turn
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's how it
it.
is.
That's how it really is.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. That's yeah. I think they do a good job of like, again, glamorize. Obviously, it's their job to glamorize it, but glamorizing and instilling a sense of fantasy to the audience about that stuff,
Yeah.
especially younger audiences. But once you get to a certain age, you're like, that is not how that shit works. You know?
I think too, a big problem with it is that like it'll be like their first encounter and it's like this amazing like experience, like amazing sex. I don't know about you, but like the first time that I've had sex with people, pretty much every single time has not been romantic. It's been pretty fucking awkward.
Yeah,
And like it takes time to get
yeah,
to a place where it's like great and you know each other's bodies enough to like actually get to where you're going. Especially that's another thing. The orgasm thing. They're always making it seem like girls have orgasms like all the fucking time.
yep. All these Prince Charmings that come in, they know exactly what to do, every single
Yep.
time, without fail.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I want to see a movie.
No.
I mean, I don't want to. I would like to see a movie made where like it's super awkward, like that first encounter, but they made it like
Hmm.
they build it up to be this grandiose, like oh my god, they're about to finally make love, and then like it doesn't. It happens in 2 minutes or something.
There's a movie like that. It's called Two Night Stand. And in it, they get like trapped together. Okay, so the first night they like hook up and it's kind of weird and the sex isn't good. And then there's a snowstorm overnight and so she has to stay there another night. And then they like agree to like try to have sex again but make it like talk to each other
Yeah,
and make it good. Like tell each other how to do it
yeah,
to make it good.
huh,
This is a good movie. I liked it
yeah.
actually.
That's the realistic part. That's the realistic portion of it. Like you got to learn your partner, what their likes, their dislikes, stuff like that. Yeah, they
Yeah.
make. I think that's like caveat with the Prince Charming thing or whoever. It's always like, yeah, they know exactly what to do. Nah, probably
And
not.
most romance movies, it's always like missionary.
Yeah,
They're like staring into each other's eyes
yeah,
and like
yeah.
caressing each other.
I feel like pretty much every. Yeah,
The girls have the most perfect boobs ever.
those are all just Game of Thrones stand-ins. That's all that is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we kind of touched on enemies to lovers as well.
yeah,
But I think that one is just I think I could see it just like the banter turning into something else, but a lot of times it's just like completely in movies it's like completely toxic dynamics and then
yeah.
they fall in love with each other. And that is not a good thing to teach or to idolize because
There's,
you don't want to be falling in love with someone because they're fucking mean to you.
yeah, you're falling for the toxicity and the chaos, and then all of a sudden you're like, do I like this? Oh, I guess I do. It's like, what the fuck? No.
It's that drug effect. It's
Yep.
the give and the take.
Yep. The one with Sandra Bullock and Ryan Reynolds, where he's like super well off.
Proposal.
Yep. That's what reminds me of like a toxic like enemies coming
Yeah.
together. Yeah.
Yeah. And then yeah, idolizing toxic relationships.
Yeah. or making like stable relationships seem toxic. Like Hallmark movies, I think are notorious for this, where it's like the wife or the husband, like they have like a super stable job, they're like the breadwinner or something like that, and like, oh sorry honey, like I had a meeting and we're trying to close this big deal or whatever is happening, and like outside perspective, if you're not in that movie, like he's doing a good job or she's doing a good job, like she's, you know, providing for the family or whatever the case may be, and then the, you know, the wife or the husband is like, oh, I'm just, you know, I'm not feeling it anymore. I just need to go back home and to this podunk town, and I fall in love with the bartender instead of my husband or wife or whatever the case is.
Oh
Like,
yeah, see, yeah, The Notebook does that too because she falls in love with the guy, and they're like engaged, and he's like super good to her, and he's wealthy, and like not to say that like that's an important thing, but just saying like
yeah,
he's like everybody's dream guy, and
yeah,
then she goes back to her hometown and goes back to like
yeah,
her alcoholic like
yeah,
first love,
exactly.
So
But I
yeah,
think
Hallmark
that,
does that a lot.
yeah, I think they idolize they flip the toxic relationship to whoever is doing work for the family, which
Hmm.
realistically, like, I feel like a lot of people would prefer that. Like, hey, thank you, you're being, you know, idolized would be better than turning that toxic.
It's more like idolizing the excitement, which is toxic because life isn't always exciting.
Yeah,
You shouldn't be chasing the excitement. You should be chasing what is, safe.
yeah. You're creating a safe spot with your partner. Not, you shouldn't be chasing the ups and downs. That's a trauma response. Uh,
Yeah.
and yeah, there was a series on Netflix that dealt with that really well, actually. Uh, it was a super. It was a super like shit. Told you, should have just made a list of this. It was like a super like sexy show like for Netflix where everybody was like, "Holy shit! Like, why is this on Netflix?" Where the wife like re reignites her lust for some band guy that plays in a band or is like an art collector, and they're married. Uh, and her husband is like a breadwinner and like, you know, 6 figure job. They got kids together, and then she like has a diary just like daydreaming about her ex, you know, lover.
That sounds fucked up.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of it, but it was like it was all over Netflix for, you know, how Netflix is, or they pop a series on or whatever. But it was all over Netflix for a while, where she was just soup like literally daydreaming about this guy while she's married to her husband. I was just like, what the
Hmm.
fuck? What are you doing? Yeah,
That could, that we could go on. That gives me a whole other idea for a podcast.
yeah.
So
Uh oh.
just yeah.
I have to look it up now.
Look up the movie.
I
Okay.
have to. Netflix series. Uh,
Why are you doing that? I'm gonna get a drink because
yeah, you're good.
keep my throat lubricated. Your eyeball.
Sex Life. That's what it was called.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
It came out last year. Um, woman's daring sexual past collides with her married and kids present when she has a bad boy ex boyfriend. The bad boy. That's the other thing. That's the other
Oh, the
like,
bad
yeah,
boy.
the yeah,
Yeah,
girls
making
leaving for the bad boy.
or just falling for the bad boy in general.
Yeah, yeah,
Or the girl next door trope too.
yeah. That one too. Yeah. Well, there's not very well. I mean, there's like the movie Girl Next Door, which is like a super fantasy. I guess maybe not
I
now.
feel like though they make it seem like, oh, well, if you're the girl next door, you're the sweet, like delicate one, then you're gonna win the guy, which I mean can be true, but like
Yeah,
sometimes that's just not the case. You
yeah,
might not luck out that way because sometimes guys are only in it for the looks. Same with girls.
yeah, yeah. I could see that. I could see more kind of like the like the old 90s movies where like the nerdy girl has her glow up type thing. Yeah.
Ah, yeah, the glow up.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, but I think it's almost a trend now to have a glow up. So like everybody does like, oh, look, here's my glow up.
I think all of us 90s kids like had a glow up
But
in
the
in a
reality of
sense.
the situation is you just get hotter as you get older. That's just,
I think that's what
you
it is
know, you
too.
become a woman or you become a man. Like
Mm-hmm.
you don't have a glow up, you just get older.
Yeah,
You come into your body, you
you just get old.
learn how to do your hair. Like
Yeah, you finally figure shit out instead of like, uh, you know, going thinking you know how to dress appropriately and you have no idea.
going through a goth phase.
It's never a phase, mom.
Um, so, you know, why is it toxic to have unrealistic standards from movies?
Ooh. Um, I think that having those unrealistic standards puts the pressure on whoever you're searching for at an exponentially higher rate. Like, if you're searching, if you're dating, you have your own standards and boundaries and things you want, obviously. But having movies kind of like give you even a little bit more that you want to look for is just unrealistic because they're fantasy. They're made up. It's a story on a page that actors did. It's not going to happen exactly like that.
Yeah, I think just having realistic ideas of your standards because
Yeah.
you should have standards. That's important. You
Yeah.
should know what you want in another person and what's important to you, but also just keeping in mind that things that you see in movies aren't really how things go.
Yeah.
And you can't really like hold people to standards that just aren't real.
Yeah. It's excellent to have and you should have standards, but take into account the realistic nature of them. So, don't shoot for the bad boy back home that you haven't talked to in 10 years and like, I really need a shot with him. It's like, what the yeah.
And or just think that he's going to change for you.
Yeah.
Having that realistic idea in your head is important.
I think it
But
builds an unrealistic expectation of a person in general in your head before you get
yeah.
to that person, which
Yeah.
is a whole other thing.
You are not going to change him, all right?
Yeah.
If he is not what you are looking for, move on, sis or sir, because
Yeah.
you're not going to change people.
It's not
You either
your
love them where they are or you move. One thing that I heard in another podcast was, um, if you look at a relationship and you're like, if they never changed, if they were just always this person, would I be happy with them?
right.
Having that idea in your head is a good way to move forward, I think, because having the idea, oh, well, I would be happy if this changed or I would be happy if this happened. That's not good.
Yeah. You're playing scenarios in your head to justify actions and inactions and stuff instead of like looking at the situation objectively and be like, this is how they are. This is how they are every time. I can't change that. Okay, see ya.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not your job to clean up another person's mess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think that too, like, just, I forgot what I was going to say. I lost my train of thought.
It happens with old age. It's okay.
At least I had a glow up.
I mean, I just have facial hair. It's okay. That's all I got. What was I gonna say? Fuck, you made me lose my train of thought too.
Whoopsie.
What are some, I guess, positives from movies that we could take? Don't want to be all negative this time.
I mean, I think it just depends on the movie, but
I was gonna say
what
maybe
are
like
some that you think?
those grand gestures, like, I think realistic expectations are like, a guy like coming to the first date, or whatever the event of the movie is, with like flowers or something, or remembering to show up on time.
Hmm.
Um, some of those are like realistic and like doable, and like in a sense, if like maybe if your partner likes that type of stuff, like, oh, take notice, they like those things, like get them flowers every so often, stuff like that, like just
Yeah.
consciously thinking about those things. um I'm trying to think of like some other ones where like maybe they include like certain things, like um being very,
I think just be like adding the romantic element as a whole.
yeah,
It's nice. I think both men and women both like to be romanticized, and to have that in movies and kind of like show it is like a good, I think, way to put it in your head. Like, hey, do these things for your partner.
yeah,
Makes them feel special, makes them feel loved.
yeah. Not to go back to negatives, but like I think the pressure of on guys realistically for from those movies, like how much they have to put effort wise into girls
Hmm.
from those movies, is sometimes like holy shit, like that's where the bar's at.
I think that there needs to be more of a split. I think there needs to be
Yeah,
more of women doing things like that, like
yeah,
bringing maybe not flowers, but maybe something that they like candy or, something little for their partner, not always just the man doing the romanticizing, but also the women, because men like those things too.
yeah. We'll never
It's
admit it,
like
but yes,
in
we love it.
movies, it's like, oh, men just want sex. So they basically have to convince us to do it by getting us flowers and candy and things like that. But the truth
Yeah,
is men do like to be romanticized sometimes. They do like those little things and those little gestures to show that you think of them throughout the day or you love them.
yeah, yeah. I think being thoughtful and thinking about your partner and ways you can help improve their day, even with it's like one little thing, man or woman, can go a long way.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
excuse moi.
You sicko.
Yeah, yeah.
I do have another one, and that is just the whole you have to wait a certain amount of time to call or text thing.
Oh yeah. Don't make the first
Like,
move or whatever.
yeah, because I
Yeah,
think that is kind of a confusing thing to put on people. Basically playing games.
yeah,
I don't think you should play games. I think it should be do what you feel is right because the right person is going to appreciate those things.
yeah, yeah. I think a lot of movies put that in a negative context, and they don't even like explain the rules for guys. So like we don't know what to do. Like, do I text him? Do I call him? No, she's supposed to reach out to me. I don't know. And then it's just like this weird, ambiguous time to talk to somebody, and you're like, ah, shit.
Did I wait too long to text now?
Yeah.
Do
Did I
they
text him
think
too
I'm
soon?
ghosting them?
Yeah. They walked out the door and I text him and like, oh, well, he's a creep. It's like, ah, shit. Everything's downhill.
Yeah, and I think that it also is movies kind of create this idea that everything needs to happen super fast
Yeah.
and not like you can just take your time getting to know somebody, which is the way it should be.
Yeah. Yeah. They kind of, a lot of movies, I think, skip the kind of the learning and
Talking phase.
the talking. I would say even like the friendship phase where like they're getting
Hmm.
to know each other, or maybe they aren't talking like that. They're not romantically involved yet. And it's straight to like romance.
Yeah.
This has to happen,
Hmm.
which realistically, it's got to take some time.
Yeah.
You aren't going to fall in love with somebody on a diner at midnight in 2 hours. You might.
Right.
I'm not saying there's not a chance,
You
but
might
I'm
make a
just saying.
connection.
Yeah.
You're not going to fall in love.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're going to fall in lust, not love. We talked about this.
Lust, not love. Yeah.
All right, guys. I think that that's going to do it for this episode. If you guys like this episode, let us know. We'd love to hear. Tag us in your stories. Tell us that you're listening. Let us know some topics that you guys want to hear in the future. Make sure to subscribe or like wherever you're watching and leave us a review if you can. And we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Goodbye.